Hello, welcome to my new series. This is going to be a monthly series published around the full moon that looks at a very ordinary location. They'll be different each time. And I'm going to engage with that place in sort of a creative, playful way to see. This is kind of an ideation exercise to see what might be speaking here. And what is there in what seemingly seems ordinary, mundane, that can be a connection point for further creative exploration? So here I am, there's my shadow, which all of a sudden to me is drawing me in as deeply intriguing. Cool. Okay, so here we are. I'm just riffing this right in the moment. So I am at a interlocking brick pathway. And there's some sun shadow, some tree leafy shadow, bits growing out of the cracks. So that's I'm just kind of giving a little description of where we are, and there's gaps between. And also I'm just as I settle in and spend some time here, I'm like, okay, there's also like ants running around. So that is making me aware of there's an entire ecosystem underneath. And within and upon this space that I just took as kind of like a very ordinary pathway. So the first thing I would suggest if you are seeking connection and creativity is to just settle into where you are. Like spend some time here and just absorb what's arising, what's here. And then I think things are just going to start speaking. They're just going to start calling. I also don't know if you can hear. So I've got crickets. So it's not just visual, right? So there's a visual thing. There's a tactile component, right? There's textures. There's also a sound component. I can hear someone in the distance with a saw or some kind of mechanical piece. I can also hear crickets. It's sunny summer where I am, so, there's a warmth to the air. It's not particularly windy, so there's a softness and a gentleness to the air. So already I just got super descriptive, right? I gotta stand up here. Okay, so sinking into the senses, first thing. Any of those could have been an entry point for further creative exploration, whether it be the contrast in the touch, the colors, the temperature, all of that. Those are just all of a sudden multiple openings. The other thing, also there's the contrast between the shadow and the light. And then there's also my physical self. So I am also, often we think like I'm in an environment. This is the landscape. But I am also here in the environment, and my presence is a part of the experience. So there's an interior experience and then the exterior experience, which are merging and happening at the same time. So I'm noticing right now, like there's an ant, and I'm now a shadow upon the ant. Nope, there it is, that particular ant. So this also makes me want to shift point of view, which can be done with anything that's here. So there's the ants that are scurrying, sensing my larger body. The plants are also possibly experiencing me. I just put shadow on those plants. Like, there is a relationship here. I am not an omnipotent, absent observer. I am embodied, engaged. I'm here. And everything that I do is an interconnection. So there's a story there between just that, my presence here. And then the point of view hopping would be like, okay, so what is that ant experiencing as it's scurrying and is aware of my larger presence? There's things there between perspective, size, even looking at the plants. What is the plant's point of view? This interlocking brick and the gaps and the cracks. If you were to descend down there, what's the story? So there's just so much storytelling that could happen in any way. It could be written, poetic, visual, sound. the creative possibilities just from this one pathway are really quite endless. So let's see, just to recap, we've done sensory, relationship, point of view and perspective. The other thing I think I would do is kind of like place and time. So I'm here in a particular season. I might imagine this place in another time period. Like I'm not the first person that has walked this path. Who else has walked this path? Going back decades, because this path's probably been around for a while. And then even like what preceded the path. Where is this path going in the future? What's it going to look like in 10 years from now? So you can start time traveling with wherever you are. And the other thing is like this is ground, but it's not the only thing. Like you go up. So like expanding, I was looking down, but the path again isn't part of a very immersive experience. There's sky above. What's the viewpoint of the sky? Like, and the time travel of the clouds, and like again, we can just trip out creatively. There's so many stories that could be told. Even the story here of this mold, like that's growing, not mold, moss that is growing up in between. And then you start thinking about this, like if I start getting into the perspective of the stuff that's growing up between the cracks, I get very curious about like constraint, like thrive. There's a theme for a story, like thriving. What's it mean to grow up through the cracks of something, right? What is the relationship between this plant and the other plants around it, and the patterns they could be making? So like you could also approach a place like this seeking out themes and then thematic, like the one I just gave there, growing up through cracks. That can now be another launch point. So just to quickly recap, I think I suggested sensory experiences, descriptive experiences, relational experiences, time experiences, point of view experiences. Yeah, that's a lot. Like, that is not all there is. My suggestion to you would be to find a very mundane place and then just work through some of those explorations to see what sparks. Like, if I was now going to go and engage in some creative activity, I would I'd have to find which one sparked kind of like the most energy, and it could be that nothing here necessarily turns into anything, and that's okay. Like, not everything becomes something. But even just even just coming here and noticing in itself is a creative flow state that then generates further creative flow states. Like, it is a very generative way of being in the world. So a lot of times creatives are like, I need to produce this, or I need to make this, or like that comes, but letting the kind of like body settle into a space and then see what emerges is, to me, one of the key ways of being a creative person. But yeah, then my next step would be like, well, from what I experienced here in these 4 minutes, is where I want to go next. Like, what has energy for me? And that would be different for all sorts of people.
Thanks for visiting. We'll see you in a month.